Out of the gates and ready to go. It is Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow coming up. Hoosiers, the greatest sports movie of all time. NFLPA, the players have the grades. The grades are in for NFL ownership and franchises. Plus, the copycat system, it's alive and well across the National Football League. That and more right here. Hot Mike, Hutton and Withrow. While you're here on the YouTube page, we hope you'll like, comment, and subscribe. Chad, in honor of Gene Hackman, it has us going back and thinking of the great movies, film that he was a part of, one of the legends. And it has you trying to figure out, and maybe it's an obvious one, the greatest sports movie of all time for you.
Yeah, I sort of eulogized the great Gene Hackman, who holds a special place in my heart and the hearts of many yesterday on the day of his death. 95 years old. And it really got me thinking. It got others thinking, too. I saw Clay Travis posted that it's definitely top 5, maybe the best sports movie of all time. And I started thinking, when you think about pure sports, entertainment, movies, great storylines,
yes.
This one is based on a true story, but also embellished, right? So they could take some Hollywood license with it, and it wasn't just by the book true story, but also kind of a true story. It's tough to beat Hoosiers as maybe the greatest sports movie of all time. I'll argue that it is. I think it's number one as I really go back and debate on my list. Now, the American Film Institute a few years back ranked the top 10 sports movies of all time. On their list, Hutton, Hoosiers ranks 4th.
Okay.
Would you like to hear the 3 movies ahead of Hoosiers?
Can I
guess?
guess?
Yes.
Because I have not seen this.
Okay.
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams is not in the top 10.
That's ridiculous. That's awful. That's just ranking this Hoosiers 4th is awful too. Remember the Titans.
Remember the Titans, not on this list.
That is asinine to me.
Let me go ahead and give you a hint to kind of narrow it down. The newest movie on this list is Jerry McGuire from 1998.
I mean, the fact that Jerry McGuire is on this list,
1998.
but Field of Dreams is not.
Nothing in this century is on this list.
I mean, Air Bud, is this on the list?
No, Air Bud didn't make it. It was right there. The Air up there actually was honorable mention number 11.
I won't spend
up Kevin Bacon. I made that up.
Just briefly. Remember the Titans. If it is on as you scroll past on the TV on your guide, how many people just stop and click and watch?
I watched it in the last week.
I'm
not exaggerating. I turned it on, and Evie and I watched a little bit. It was probably in the last 10 days.
If it's on,
I've done just this.
Same thing. Field of Dreams, the nostalgia of that movie, I'm doing the same thing. I just want to point out that where they're ranked and unranked, I'm not happy about this.
Hutton, there are exactly, of the American Film Institute, I'll get into some of the ones I would pick that's on the Rolling Stone top 30 for sports movies all time. Of the American Film Institute top 10, there are 3 I would even consider for the top 10. That's it, out of the top 10. Now, granted, I'm not like Gene Hackman, 95 years old, before, rest in peace, he passed away yesterday.
Right.
So maybe I don't have the respect and appreciation I should for some of these films. Number 1 all time, Raging Bull. I've seen it. Terrific movie. Great work of art. Martin Scorsese, really good.
Right.
Robert De Niro, excellent in it. When I think sports movie, I don't think Academy Award winning, nominated movie, work of art like Raging Bull, but I can understand why it's number 1.
When I think sports movie, I think, what movies would we name if we're having a beer at the bar? Raging Bull isn't.
Yeah.
Now,
Rocky would be.
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
put Rocky. You're going to pick
there.
one from all of them, and the original
Rocky's
Rocky
there, yes.
is number 2. The Pride of the Yankees from 1943. We'll go ahead and pass. I don't think many people have seen it. I have not. Full disclosure. Hoosiers number 4. We can all get behind that. We'll talk more about Hoosiers. Bull Durham number 5. I'm not as high on Bull Durham as others.
It's down the list for me.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not like I would put Major League ahead of Bull Durham in terms of sports, drama, comedy.
Yep.
And make no mistake about it, Major League is a drama too. If you don't feel the emotion and the chill bumps in the last moments of that movie, when Jake Taylor, spoiler alert, calls his shot and then pulls it back and bunts to leg out a single, and Willie Mays Hayes in slow motion is coming around third trying to score, my goodness, that is a powerful moment in sports film of all time. I would put Major League ahead of Bull Durham. They do not. Bull Durham 5. Number 6, The Hustler. The Hustler with Paul Newman. The follow-up to that was the Tom Cruise movie, The Color of Money, in the 1980s. I've seen it. I didn't really think much of it.
We're 6 in, and I haven't heard The Sandlot yet.
Yeah, that's sad. Now, if we did everything from 1985 on, our list would be much better, right, for us.
A movie from 43 is ahead of some of these others.
We can spend a whole other hour on, like, top 100 lists.
Oh.
And this is, I think, a primary complaint of mine at one point. There's a movie from, like, 1928 that's, like, 41 minutes long. That's in the top 5, and I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Like, just like we've advanced past.
It's a YouTube show.
Andrew Jackson, at one point, medicine was bleeding him when he got hurt. Like, we've advanced past that.
Leeching.
We don't have to still honor leeching and bleeding people as the top medical practices of all time. We don't need to honor movies from the 1920s.
We don't have to sit outside the city wall.
As the gold standard. We've come so far since then in movies. Number 7, Caddyshack. Funny movie.
Sure.
I really don't consider it much of a sports movie, honestly. More of just a slapstick comedy.
I would name it, but it's not. I'm with you.
Number 8, a 1979 movie with Dennis Quaid called Breaking Away, a cycling movie. Moving along.
Okay.
Hutton, I know that you honor and respect this one. From the 1940s, National Velvet, a horse riding movie.
Sounds erotic.
Never seen it. It does.
Just like yours earlier. Your what's Withrow watching?
Yeah. It's just like The Gorge.
The Gorge.
It's The Gorge by a different name.
Yes.
That's what Gene Siskel
in the
called
40s.
It. Yes. Number 10, Jerry Maguire. Okay. So I'm going to scratch that list other than Hoosiers where it's at. Rightfully in the top 5. If I'm going through all time, like, you're right. Field of Dreams pops to mind for me. Major League does for me. Rocky. Remember the Titans? Rudy. Rudy came in at 26th all time on Rolling Stone.
But The Sandlot, you would agree, comes to mind. Remember the Titans? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like, I just want to. I don't know who authored this list, but they certainly didn't take votes.
Whoever's in the American Film Institute.
I know, but they didn't take a. It's not like they.
Well, they didn't really. They probably didn't poll people, of our age or around our age on this when looking at it. But
the feel that you get from Hoosiers, though, is unmatched of this list. That so far, to me, like the you feel it in your stomach.
The underdog story.
Yeah. The first time you watch it.
It doesn't have. It has a little bit like I think a lot of these movies of that era, they like throw in, like, remember the Titans, they throw in kind of civil rights, race relations into it, and that kind of adds to the drama of the movie. It certainly does in something like Remember the Titans. It's a big part of the antagonism of the time.
Sure.
Rudy has a little bit of that. I'm sorry, not Rudy. Hoosiers a little bit of that in the end when they're playing the integrated school, right, in the championship. But
the music in Remember the Titans also plays into it. The drama.
And for Hoosiers, the music, the underdog story, and it's Gene Hackman. Like when I see the news yesterday that he died, immediately the role that comes to mind for me and the image that comes to mind. Again, I grew up playing basketball, so it's kind of slanted, right? This is something we would watch in 7th and 8th grade, middle school, before our game. Our coach would show it to us. And by the way, this is weird to me when I look back on it. When he did that, the movie was only 8 years old. When I was watching that in middle school, it came out in 1986, almost 1987. It feels so much older.
It does.
It takes place in the 50s, obviously, but I felt like that movie would have been around for 30 years. As classic as it felt, even in the mid-90s when I was watching it, over and over and over again. But on that image I get of Gene Hackman is standing there in a leather jacket, like a bomber jacket, and a tie, and he's Norman Dale, the head coach of the Hickory Hoosiers.
And he's looking at
he's saying my team is on the floor when his guy won't take the 4 passes, and he sits him.
Or
he plays the 4.
He's looking in the huddle, and you have, I'll make it as a response. I mean, that's...
And like any good coach, what does Norman Dale do?
Dude,
he listens to his team.
Yep.
He says, you know what? Scrap what I was talking about. Jimmy's taking the last shot. Here we go.
I mean, if you think about the first time you watched these movies, whenever they were, and the feeling that you had, this one, I can take myself back to that moment, right? Yeah. There's only a few of these where you remember that. So it wasn't the top 5 list.
It's just like it's pure joy to me when I think about the greatest sports movies. I mean, there are very sad parts, and Remember the Titans and Hoosiers and Rudy and all of that. Like that, you as a kid, I'm watching the old VHS of Hoosiers. And I want to fast forward through the part where Dennis Hopper stumbles onto the court drunk and embarrasses his kid. And his kid walks the bench, and Gene Hackman's having to console him, saying, you just get through this. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then his dad has to get escorted out. Then they go visit him in the hospital. and he's crying because he can't be there for the state championship. I get sad thinking about those moments, but it's not just pure joy in these great stories of struggle in sports. There's always something that brings you down, but then the moment it brings you back and back up, it makes it so much more meaningful. So not to say that the whole movie is just straight joy, intoxicating start to finish. There's some rough parts, but it makes the end so much better. And when I think of Gene Hackman, I think of head coach Norman Dale in Indiana coaching high school basketball. And I hope I always have that memory.
Is Happy Gilmore in this list?
Happy Gilmore would be on my list.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Happy Gilmore's way ahead of Caddyshack to me.
I mean,
here's another one I
would
would put in there.
Tin Cup?
Thank you.
Okay.
Tin Cup's ahead of Caddyshack. Again, I recognize I'm in the minority here.
No, I don't. I mean,
but I would say Tin Cup.
We're in the
Happy Gilmore.
Our generation. We grew up with the best sports movies. If you think
We really did.
I mean, just think about the litany of just sports entertainment we had.
See, this is why I'm not in the American Film Institute, because I would put Little Big League ahead of Pride of the Yankees. And that would probably not get a lot of
Little Giants
from everyone else. I watched Little Giants in the last year.
I'm trying to come up with Angels in the Outfield.
Angels in the Outfield, not as big
I'm
of a
just trying
fan.
to come up with movies I would watch. Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, Little Big League, Rookie of the Year, kind of the same storyline, right? Except one 12-year-old's a player, the other one's the manager. But equally good.
But you're right, Gene Hackman is the
Any Given Sunday, what do you think about Any Given Sunday as a sports movie?
Absolutely.
The appeal to that is Al Pacino as the coach, who gives the great speech.
The replacements.
About the inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch.
Yeah.
I can't do a great Pacino, but that's a great moment in the movie.
Well done. I mean, I'm thinking about me at 7 years old at this point.
It's just, it's pretty close to perfect.
It's
like
fun.
if I go back and I review that whole movie start to finish, the whole will he, won't he with Jimmy Chitwood. Now, let me give one critique of the movie, okay? One critique. There was no reason for Norman Dale and Barbara Hershey's character to kiss in the movie. That was the most forced romantic interlude that I've ever seen. And I have read where they cut out a lot of the movie of those two interacting, but kept the kiss in it. And I think they kind of regretted it.
They thought that was going to be a payoff.
Well, because there was a lot more interaction with those two that made more sense.
Yeah.
So then when they stop in the farm, out in the pasture, and he kisses her, it meant a lot more. But they didn't have a lot of scenes together in the movie, and she's just kind of the conduit to explain the town to him. Like, this is the way people here think, Norman. This is what you got to contend with the parents and the business people in this town and everything else. And then so when he grabs her and kisses her, he's also about 35 years older than she is. So maybe a movie ahead of its time, or of its time in the 1950s. But it was just a little bit forced.
He's DiCaprio.
Yeah, we didn't really need a romance side story in Hoosiers. Everything else was sufficient.
We needed the granny shot, though.
Yeah. But not enough to make it not the best sports movie of all time.
I'm right. I'm there. I would cast Hoosiers.
Here's another one that we failed to mention. The Program.
Yes.
That would be in my top 10.
Yes.
Steve Latimer. Come on.
Roids. Let's go.
It's got everything.
Everything we want.